People lived by the blade, people died by the blade. That is the way many people lived in the medieval period. Today I will be covering German longsword fighting, both or all of the above, the stances, the basic moves, and a short history. I will be using this. Disclaimer: it is not sharp. Safety first. Do not try this at home. So first, I will be covering your stances. So just using the basic, your basic ox stance or your plow stance. Sorry. You have tight to your shoulders. You want to step and pivot in a triangle. You can pivot with both feet, but keep your body in almost a triangle shape, to where your next move will be the other tip of the triangle and both feet are planted. This helps with stability and safety above most other things, as people can't knock you off your feet and hurt you. So to counter this, you basically want to match their steps. So if they have right foot forward, you go right foot forward, just facing them. Your styles. You have your Wundtag, which is up over your shoulder like so, to where your elbows are high, everything's pointed, and it's pointed down towards like their chest face area. You then have your Ox, which is closer knit to where the blade is closer to your face, pointed at them. Some people rest it on their arm. I find that dangerous with sharper blades because you will hurt yourself. Next, you have your Fluch, which is closer to your hips, as I covered earlier, and it's pointed up towards their face. You have your Alber, which is your Fool's Guard. Your blade is down, but it is ready to come up quick and defend. So covering all those are the 4 basic stances of German longsword fighting. Now, moving on to your basic moves. There's basic 1 through 10. You have your 1, your 2 is the opposite direction, your 3 and your 4 are cross strokes across the belly, 5 is a thrust, 6 is coming up from your hip to their shoulder, 7 is the same thing, other side, 8 is straight down, 9 is straight up, and 10 is your hilt. So covering those are your 10 basic moves. Now, that being said, 1 and 2 are Oberhaus, which are overhead strikes. 1 and 2, it goes from over your head across. 3 and 4 are Hauen, which are cutting strokes, which cut across their stomach or other body parts, whatever difference of how high or low you go. Unterhau are the 6 and 7. So it's under strikes, you come from underwards up. And then you have your Stecken, which are your thrusts. That is 5 and 10. You thrust the blade and you thrust the hilt. Those are your basic moves there. Now, to counter these, say if somebody just used a 1 Oberhaus strike, you would either counter it with your own 1, but it would be reversed, so you would meet blades and cross here. Or you could go, instead of a 1, you could go a 7, and you come up and meet like this. Now, the best part of this is once you hit here, you can go immediately into an Oberhaus. And hence, if you meet like this, you can bounce off and come in for a strike, or you can hit here, cross, and then thrust. It takes a lot of practice to learn what you can do and what you cannot do. But your basic moves are your 1 through 10. So, the usage, it really all depends on, once again, what you or your opponent do, but your uses are your overheads, underhands, your thrusts, and your slashes. Now, keep in mind, this is all subject to change depending on what kind of weapon, but I'm covering German longsword fighting. Now, keep in mind, longsword, you can go from my forehead all the way down to almost my knee. So it is a rather long sword. It is longer than an arm length. So it is a long sword. And another good way for long swords is if you can fit 2 hands on the handle and not grip the pommel, which is the bottom part. So, a short history of German longsword fighting. It was used through the 14th and 17th century. Um, I mean, interchangeable a little bit. It was used a little farther past that, a little before the past, whatever. We really only have documentation of 14th through 17th century. The 16th century is right about the middle area. That marks the end of them using it for like all-out war or like battle themselves, and they use it more of a dueling style, which I find really unique and neat. And another cool fact about that is the dueling. You can find different people using different styles and such in a group called HEMA, which is Historical European Martial Arts, and they practice sword fighting and different combat techniques of other styles and other eras, so on and so forth. It's really cool. I recommend looking it up. That's personally how I got into training with swords or practicing combat of any sort. Um, so, before, after, weak, strong, and meanwhile are the 5 key points of the master. I'm not entirely sure of how to pronounce it, but I think it's Lichtauer. Lichtauer. He was a master German longsword trainer. He trained many generations. He himself learned. I think he was more of the 14th, 15th century. I could be slightly off, but I'm almost certain on that. So you have your before and after. Before is for predicting or like thinking of the moves you want to do before. After is after you've made them or after your opponent has made a move, you can counter it or other things. And then you have your weak and strong. So it's more like a control depending on where you go on the blade itself. You have your weak ends, which is typically the top half of the blade, and your strong end, which is your lower half of the blade. But weak and strong is typically the what's the word for it? The terms used for if like how well you are in combat, like you're weak as in you let the opponent go first, and you're strong as you take control of the situation and you control the enemy or opponent, whatever. And then meanwhile in battle you are always thinking ahead and reacting and so on and so forth as you are in meanwhile, like now. Um, like I've already said, is practiced today by HEMA. The German style is more of an aggressive, attacking style, and I enjoy it personally because I enjoy the aggressive aspect of it. And in conclusion, I have covered different styles, different moves, and your footwork and other in brief context. Once again, you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Actually, 8 and 9 also are 8 is an Oberhau and 9 is an Unterhau. It's just straight up and down. And once again, thank you for listening. Disclaimer, I did use a not sharp blade. It is a practice blade. I am in no danger of myself. And yes, I thank you for listening and so on and so forth. But I do have another blade to show you. This one is sharp, so I'm not going to take it out of the sheath. But if you would like to see, this is another blade that I have. And then I'm also going to show you what typical German knights would have worn. I mean, it's subject to change because this is a rendering, but you can see the helmet here is pointed to allow deflection. You have metal chest plates to dissuade puncture, and then your legs and your arms here are metal as well to prevent cutting and slashing of your extremities. But yes, that should be all I have. Thank you for watching and so on and so forth. But yes, thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and that is German longsword fighting.